Good afternoon, Comms 526. I'm going to be presenting chapters 10 and 11 from the story branding book on archetypal analysis and the brand's outer layer. Next slide. Archetypal analysis. The definition the book gave says an original model of a person, ideal, example, or prototype after which others are copied, patterned, or emulated. Archetype, a generic version of personality, and it can be found in various degrees, meaning that there are more than one dominant archetypes found in a person. So there's not just one single characteristic or personality that makes up a person's inner layer or a story's or a brand's inner layer. There's multiple characteristics that combine together make up the inner soul of a foundation or a person. Archetypal is also considered a radical departure from traditional ways of understanding brands. Next slide. Here's some of the various characteristics the book named. Actually, this is my favorite chapter, to be honest, because I was reading all of these characteristics and I was trying to find, okay, which one applies to me? And yes, it's true. There were multiple characteristics that applied to myself. So the first, the purist, and I'm not going to name them all. I'm going to name, some of them, but not all of them. You'll have to go back and read for all of the characteristics it listed. So the purist. The purist believes in everything good. They're highly ethical. They look at everything through kind eyes. They have a high sense of integrity, meaning, they want to make sure they're doing the right thing even when no one's looking. For me, when I think about the purist, sometimes I think about how Christians behave and how Christians, they want this characteristic, not necessarily. They don't necessarily get it all right, but in the meantime, they want to be good. They want to be kind to their neighbor. They don't just want it to be a facade. They want to be able to actually go out into the world and believe in everything good and help bring good out into the world. So the brands listed were Disney, Dove. And I just think about the pure white soap of Dove, and Make-A-Wish Foundation. Next slide. The pioneer. This is the individualist. This is the person that is excited about life and they're looking for a new adventure and they want to go out there and they want to discover it. They don't want to stay necessarily in the box. They want to be able to just find whatever adventure that they can get into, and they usually don't like to sit still. The pioneer, usually after the discovery, they're off for the next discovery. They're off for the next adventure. And when that one's completed, they're off again for another adventure. They can't sit still. They can't just be confined. They don't like boundaries. They don't like boredom. They don't like to be stagnant. They definitely don't like limitations at all. Some of the brands represented there are Groupon, Jeep, and the Discovery Channel. And when I think about Jeep, all the commercials that I see in regards to the Jeep product or the Jeep brand, the car is always off the road. They're not like on a highway driving. They're not like in a raceway. They are usually on off terrain, on a hill or a mountain, or maybe there's a beach or something like this. They are always showing, that they are off of the norm of what everybody else is doing. So I always think about the pioneer when it comes to Jeep, the Jeep Cherokee brand. Okay, so then there's the entertainer, and they consider this the class clown. And it's funny because I'm not the class clown per se. I like to tell some jokes, but I do have some class clowns in my family. But they also describe the entertainer as fun-loving and free-spirited, and that is definitely me. I do not like conflict. I don't like to be around negative. I always want to be smiling. I want to hang around somebody that's going to make me laugh, or I want to help make other people laugh. I always think about this even in my job as a healthcare provider. When I see these patients come in, they have their own story to tell, and sometimes they're really not feeling that great or they're good. And if I can offer them a smile or a little chuckle or a laugh, man, that does wonders for me, my soul. Some of the brands that they listed under the entertainer are brands like the Bazooka Bubblegum. And if you remember that bubblegum, when you open it up, there was a cartoon on the inside of it. So that kind of always made you feel good. And then there's Jack in the Box. Jack's always got jokes. He's always in costume. And, he is definitely entertaining us when it comes to the Jack in the Box commercials. Then there's Dr. Pepper, and you got the little guy talking about sweet sweet. So, he's entertaining us. And then there's the Looney Tunes, and Looney Tunes kind of speaks for themselves. They're cartoons, and they're always doing something crazy to one another and just, trying to keep us laughing. Next slide. Then there's the conqueror. This person tends to be noble, an overcomer, resilient. They're never going to stop. If they have a goal, they're going to continue to fight for that goal. They're going to not stop no matter what diversity comes their way, no matter, what obstacles come to them. They're going to keep pushing and striving until that goal is completed. And then when they're finished with that goal, they move on to the next goal and they apply the same characteristics behind that goal. Everything they do is going to be resilient without stopping. Their motto is winning is everything. And, and some of the brands that represent them are, they listed the Marines, but I like Nike because Nike is always telling you, yeah, come on, just do it. Don't stop till you get it done. And then there's the Gatorade commercial. And, I went back and I tried to look at the commercial for Gatorade and what it represented. I might not listen to the words of the song, but the music, we always talk about this a lot of times if you listen to music, more so like the R&B and the hip hop genres. Sometimes you're not listening to the words, you're more listening to the beat, and the beat is driving you. I have to admit that the Gatorade commercial, I don't drink Gatorade, but it doesn't inspire me. The na 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 na, and then the bass comes in and the band comes in, and it's very inspirational. So just makes me feel like, oh yeah, the next thing I go out there and I try to accomplish, I'm going to get it done because, I'm the conqueror, I'm the overcomer. Then there's the wizard. The wizard is known for transforming ordinary to extraordinary. They like the mystery and the thrill and the novelty. They have experience that makes dreams come true. And, off the bat, before I even read, some of the brands, the thing that came to me was Disney, because Disney, when you wish upon a star, I can do it. I can dream and I can make my dreams come true. They've made us believe in that since we were little. Then there's Viagra. That's enough said. And then there's the Cirque du Soleil. Some of the brands that are listed. Next slide. Then there's the seducer. The seducer is all about intimacy and romance and sensual pleasure. And love conquers all. All you need is love. Now I'm smiling because, when I talk about love, every negative aspect of life, my answer is always love. And I know people get tired of hearing me say that because, especially nowadays, people don't want to hear love. You don't want to hear how to make sure your neighbor is doing well. You don't want to hear, like, if I'm in conflict, how I should be the better person, regardless if I'm right or wrong, and just empathize with the person and listen to the person and show love. That's not what's advertised in today's world. It's all about individual and what I want and how I feel. So I took the seducer, I took some of that, which is okay. You don't have to, when I'm listening to these characteristics, you don't have to just stick be in a box with those guidelines. You can take a little bit of this characteristic and a little bit of that characteristic and a little bit of that characteristic and mix it all together, and that's going to define your story. So far for me, I'm a little bit of the class clown and the seducer. I like to laugh, but I want to love you too while I'm laughing. And some of the brands listed for the seducer are Victoria's Secret and 1-800-Flowers. Then you have the straight shooter, and I believe this might be my last one. I'm not sure, but I definitely wanted to list this particular characteristic because this is my husband all the way. He's the straight shooter. The straight shooter is listed as that no-nonsense type of guy. Like, he's just going to tell you like it is. It's going to hurt your feelings. It might make you feel good. It might not make you feel good. But he's definitely going to give you his perspective and how he sees it and how he feels it should be. So I definitely had to list that. And there's nothing wrong with that. And we found a way to balance our characteristics. I bring the laughter. He brings the seriousness. And that's how we get our kids through. That's how we get each other through. They like to say it like it is, and they march to their own drum. They're not trying to really hear anything. Once they got it made up in their mind, the straight shooter, they're not trying to hear anything else it's the right way or no way. Some of the brands that come to mind, or that were listed in the book, were Southwest, and I stopped right there at Southwest, and I thought about the straight shooter. They try to put their fees up front. There's no guesswork. Their bags check free. They're going to brag about that because most airline companies, are charging for bags. So, they they're letting us know, like, if there's a fee, we're going to tell you about it up front. When you come to the checkout counter, you're not going to have to worry about hidden nothing. We're straight up with you. We're not going to make this up as we go along. We're going to give you it like it is. Then there's Levi's and Wrangler jeans, just to name a few. So now I go on to chapter 11, and I have to admit chapter 10 was my favorite, and if I could have reversed it, I would probably give you chapter 11 first and chapter 10 second, but anyways, I stayed, I coincided with the book. So here's chapter 11, the outer layer. Now the outer layer explains the how, or the plot of the story. Compared to the inner layer is the theme of the story. You have to have both of these, the outer layer and the inner layer, the plot and the theme. When it comes to telling your story, you have to have both. I don't feel like one can really dominate the other. As a matter of fact, it was mentioned that you can't have themes without plots, and you can't have plots without themes. And if you had, plots with no themes, then the story would become meaningless. Like, you would kind of get lost to, like, well, why was I reading this? And, for me, the plot is what sucks you in, the outer layer, the plot, the how. That's what's going to suck you into the book that you're reading, or the actual brand, or the inner person. How are you getting these things done? What's driving you, to be that person that you are? The outer layer is also a supportive function of the brand. It builds confidence and trust, which brings me to the next slide. Hypocrisy, when it comes to your own personal brand, nobody likes a hypocrite, but definitely when it comes to the organization's brand, the company's brand, if hypocrisy could just kill it all. It's just a deal breaker. It causes the consumer not to trust the brand, not to trust the product. Now look, I'm a firm believer. If I buy something at the store and it works like they said it works, man, I always, you'll hear me say, man, I could do a commercial for them. Prime example for me, they're not heavy on the market. It's a little company, and they make this product called Grandma Spot Remover. I tried it, and it listed on the bottle like every stain that it was going to be able to get out, not a problem. So I had some stuff that had stains on it. I had a couple of garments that had stains on it. That those stains had been there for at least a year, I would say. I put a little Grandma Spot Remover. I followed the instructions, and woo, it came out. So now I'm like, why is this just a little product? Why is this product, only found in, the little tiny Hobby Lobby store? Why isn't it big out there, And on the reverse to that, you buy a product, and you're disappointed because it's not delivering what it promised. It said that it was going to get your stains out. It was going to leave your socks whiter than white, leave that white t-shirt whiter than white. And you go home and you try it, and you still got that old ketchup stain, or your socks are still looking dingy, and it just makes you not even want to buy the brand anymore. You're looking always for something that is going to deliver on its promise. And so that is going to be the outer layer. Well, we're talking about hypocrisy, but the outer layer is the plot again. It's what's building up to the inner layer. It's what is helping you get to the understanding of how the inner layer is functioning. If you remember in chapter 9, it talked about the inner layer being the soul and the heart. So the outer layer is just telling you how this brand, or how the person is able to bring out that inner layer. So for my question and conclusion, I want to go back, of course, to the characteristics, the archetype. What type of archetype are you? What did you find yourself saying, okay, I'm this characteristic, I'm that characteristic, and that characteristic, and how does it apply to your inner brand? My name is Yolanda Bridges. Thank you, and have a good night.